What do weddings, work events, vacations, and support groups all have in common? Well, if you saw the title of this episode, I know you're not going to be surprised. In today's episode, I'm diving into the social anxiety that often comes with these situations, especially when you're newly sober. I'm going to share my own experiences of struggling to navigate social events without alcohol and offering you strategies that will help you feel more confident and at ease. By the end of the episode, you're going to walk away with practical tools to manage social anxiety and feel empowered in any social situation, even without a drink in your hand. So grab your favorite non-alcoholic beverage, and if you're like me, maybe a notebook to take some notes, and let's tackle social anxiety so you can feel confident, stay sober, and unstoppable. Or as we say around here, unlimited. Hey everybody, welcome to the Addiction Unlimited podcast, where you get to learn everything you want to know about addiction and recovery. I'm your host, Angela Pugh, co-founder of Kansas City Recovery, life coach, and recovering alcoholic. To learn more about me, you can listen to episode 0 on your podcast app or find us on the web at addictionunlimited.com. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of the Addiction Unlimited podcast. I'm your coach, Angela Pugh. Thank you for hanging out with me today and spending some time listening to the pod. We're going to get into tips and strategies for overcoming social anxiety when you're newly sober so you can feel comfortable in those social situations. And first, I want to get into what is anxiety? What is social anxiety? This is all fear-based, right? Social anxiety is intense fear in social situations. So people with anxiety fear being judged or humiliated or rejected by others. You may worry about doing or saying something embarrassing or blushing or sweating or shaking. And this creates an avoidance, right? This will make us not go do things. We won't participate in things because we get so uncomfortable. And think about the impact that has on your life, not only your social life, but your work life, how you interact with your coworkers. And are you going to the social events that are related to work, right? This can have a major impact and make it hard to go to work, go to school, and do everyday things. This is also typically an issue that starts during your teenage years. And I want to get a little technical with this right now too, because I think it's important for you to understand how all the pieces fit together and why things work and how we talk about things as professionals, right? So anxiety is a symptom of a dysregulated nervous system. Now, what the heck does that mean? What's a dysregulated nervous system? This is when your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous systems are out of balance, okay? Your sympathetic nervous system is responsible for fight or flight. We all know about that. We hear about it all the time. We talk about it all the time. Fight or flight, that's your sympathetic nervous system. Your parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for rest and digest. So you see how polar opposite those things are, right? Your fight or flight, you're resting and digesting. So when those are out of balance, that's what creates all these symptoms, and anxiety is one of those symptoms. Now, I want you to also connect mind, body, spirit. So when your nervous system is dysregulated and out of balance, you're going to have symptoms in all of those things, mind, body, spirit. So psychological symptoms are anxiety, mood swings, depression, stress, irritability. Physical symptoms can be headaches, chronic pain, muscle tension, insomnia, a weakened immune system. So maybe you get sick more than other people do. And cognitive symptoms include things like memory problems. You have a hard time concentrating. You get really easily overwhelmed. And listen, I don't know about you, but I feel like I just described my whole life right there. So how do you get a dysregulated nervous system? That's the next piece of the puzzle to connect. So things that can kind of trigger and disrupt your nervous system is chronic stress, burnout, trauma, of course, poor sleep habits, unhealthy diet, not taking time to relax. All those things Stress and trauma are huge. Personality traits can dysregulate your nervous system, right? Like perfectionism, because you're hyper focused on that perfectionism, and that can dysregulate you. Blood sugar. When your blood sugar levels are too high or too low, it impacts your nervous system. Addiction obviously impacts your nervous system. And a lot of mental health conditions that a lot of us with addiction have, right? It's depression, anxiety, and other mental health stuff. And again, all the stressors are pretty simple daily stuff, certainly as a person with addiction: sleep problems, digestive problems, increased feelings of anger, impulsivity, racing thoughts, being defensive. We all experience these things on some level, right? Some more than others. But this is your nervous system. And the other reason I really wanted to focus on this nervous system piece, because I want you to also understand when we as professionals, whoever that is, coaches, counselors, therapists, psychiatrists, doctors, Zen masters, whatever, when we talk about strategies and tools and we say these are scientifically proven or scientifically backed, what we mean is there's a breadth of research and science proving that these are the strategies that help calm your nervous system. Because all the feelings are just symptoms. Like you learn with alcohol, alcohol is just a symptom. It's a symptom of all the feelings in a dysregulated nervous system, right? And then we drink to change how we feel, manipulate how we feel, numb how we feel. But alcohol is just a symptom. The underlying thing is all of these things. So when we say this is scientifically proven, when we're talking about coping strategies, what that means is it's scientifically proven to calm your nervous system. And that's really where your focus needs to be. So tool number one is acknowledging the root of the anxiety, right? It is fear-based. And again, dysregulated nervous system. Social anxiety is tied to self-doubt, fear of judgment. What are they going to think of me? How do I look? How am I acting? Am I being weird? Do I not fit in? Am I going to say something stupid? Right? That's the root. You have to acknowledge the root of what's actually happening in that you don't feel good. You're not confident. You have self-doubt and you have this range of fears. And alcohol masks all those insecurities, but only at the surface level, right? What recovery does is address all this stuff at its root and really heals it and helps you heal your nervous system and create new habits so that you could be healthy long term, right? Alcohol just masks it in the moment on the surface. It's not fixing anything. It's just numbing the feelings. But the number one thing you have to do is acknowledge and understand the root of your anxiety, because that's what you have to start working on a long-term basis, right? Not just when you're going in a social event, but if I understand that I'm overwhelmed by all these fears and fear of judgment, fear of rejection and all that stuff, that's the stuff I have to work on. That's self-esteem stuff, right? And this is something, if you want to get some real clarity on it, spend a few minutes journaling on this. Journal about those fears and what's really happening for you and what your thoughts are so that you can start to change some of that. And listen, I get this in my core. I'm an introvert. So being socially awkward was just life for me. You know, I was uncomfortable in everything. I drank to make me feel lighter and more fun and funnier because I'm such a freaking intense introverted person that I constantly live in my head and in my thoughts. And that makes my energy come off very heavy to people around me. And now, of course, I've been in recovery a long, long time. So who I am today is the person I've been working on for the last almost 19 years of sobriety, right? So I'm very different today than I was in the beginning. Just as you, even if you're only 2 months sober, you're very different today than you were at day one. We change incredibly quickly and we evolve incredibly quickly when we are committed to our growth and change, and we're really committed to our recovery. So understand we all share these pieces. And I understand what it feels like to be socially awkward. I had the same fears going to meetings. My anxiety was crippling. I would sit in the car and cry before I would go in places sometimes. Like, I get it. I get it. But I didn't let it stop me. I knew I had to take action and do things to break down the anxiety. Otherwise, it would just continue to grow. And I'm going to get to my biggest strategy. And I've done a podcast episode on this before. I'm going to get to that at the end of this episode. So stick around. But I'm going to tell you how I started, really like the tangible things you can do to start breaking down your anxiety. So number one, that was acknowledging the root of it. Number two is reframe your self-talk, right? It's normal to feel out of place at first because you're shedding this identity, the identity of who you've been as a drinking person, right? This identity is who you are, how you show up in the world, how you act, how people respond to you. And you're shedding this whole identity and you're trying to step into a whole new identity that you're not even clear on yet. But if your self-talk is telling you like, everyone's going to notice I'm not drinking, everybody's going to be looking at me, people are going to think I'm weird, they're going to wonder what's wrong with me, they're going to question me, and I don't know what to say. When your self-talk gets into all of that anxiety stuff, I want you to reframe that. Instead of focusing on, oh my gosh, everybody here is drinking but me, reframe that to be, let me pick out all the people in the room that aren't drinking. Let me find all the people that are holding a coffee or a water or an iced tea. Change your focus. Shift your focus from the negative to the positive. And here's an exercise you can do for this. Have some mantras or affirmations. You know, I live for mantras. Mantras are one of my favorite things because one-liners can be so impactful and they're easy to remember and I can carry them with me throughout my day. Right now, the mantra I'm living for is follow your plan, not your feelings. Because my feelings will derail me faster than anything, right? Sometimes I just don't fucking feel like it. Whatever I'm doing. And if I want to play into that, I don't feel like it. I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. Well, then I'm going to go lay on the couch and binge watch television and I'm not going to get anything done and we're going to run out of podcasts, right? I can't follow my feelings. I have to follow my plan. That's my mantra. And this is the exercise I would encourage you to do. Have a mantra, have some affirmations, those kind of things that you can take with you in these situations that you can be replaying in your head to bring you comfort and peace, right? Reframing. And again, I want you to go in the room, whatever room it is, and I want you to start picking out all the people that aren't drinking, all the people that are doing things not focused on drinking. When I used to go to conferences, I would go stand by the table that had the coffee and the water because that's where my people are going to be. Right? I'm not going to go stand at the open bar. I'm going to go stand where my people are going to be, where I can find my non-drinking people. Doesn't mean that they're recovering alcoholics, but they're not drinking. And that's who I want to kick it with. Okay. That was a lot of really good stuff in that number 2, reframe your self-talk. All right. Number 3, build your toolbox. Don't only build your toolbox, but actually take the tools out of the toolbox and use them. Okay. Bring a non-alcoholic drink. Bring your favorite drink with you if you're going to a family thing or a pool party or a picnic or something, and you can bring your own stuff. Bring it. If you can't bring your own stuff, get your own water, iced tea, whatever you want to drink, and keep it in your hand. Just have it in your hand at all times. Practice some deep breathing and visualization exercises before you go. These are valuable tools, and these are the tools I was talking about at the top of the episode that are scientifically proven. Breathing exercises, visualization exercises, meditation, these are all science-backed to calm your nervous system, which brings down your anxiety symptoms, right? The other one I would say is hugely important in social situations is having a friend for encouragement, right? If you can't take somebody with you, have somebody via text or be in our Facebook group, right? A few years ago, I had one of my clients super anxious about holiday events, and it was her first time going into these events not drinking. So we just made a deal to be connected all day. Christmas Day, we were connected all day long. And what we decided to do was send each other pictures of all the goofy things that were happening within our families, right? And her family did those crazy Christmas sweaters. So all day she's sending me pictures of everybody's sweaters, and I'm freaking dying laughing. And then I'm sending her pictures of, the silly things my nieces and nephews are doing or whatever. Like, we were connected all day. That is a huge tool from your toolbox. Be connected. Have somebody via text that you can go, oh my God, these people are crazy, or it's getting nuts around here. I'm feeling really uncomfortable. This is weird. You have to have a support system. Okay. Number 4, shift your focus from yourself, right? And this kind of goes with reframing those thoughts. We get so much anxiety from just focusing on how we're perceived. Me, 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 me. Like I said a minute ago, how do I look to other people? What are people thinking about me? Am I saying something dumb? Do I look weird, right? Like me, 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 me. That's all we think about. Shift your focus to something outside of you. This is a great one for me. You've probably heard me talk about this. I've talked about it on several episodes, but I'm very much a person who lives my life service-minded. I'm always trying to think of others because my default mode is to only think of myself. So when I shift my focus, if I'm super uncomfortable, I've got to find things to do. I'm not just going to sit and obsess with my anxiety and all the dumb shit my brain tells me, right? If you want to sit and spend quality, quiet time with the insanity in your head, how do you think that's going to end up? Not good. So get out of your head. Focus on other things. What can I do? How can I be of service? Can I clean up? Can I be throwing garbage away? Can I help with the kids? One of my favorite things I've talked about on several episodes is I become the photographer. I do this in professional situations as well as personal and family situations. I figure out how I can go around and get some great shots of people enjoying themselves, laughing, smiling, having fun, spending time with their kids, whatever. And then, especially my family, I will use some of those really great shots I get. I'll use those as gifts, and I give them as gifts at Christmas or Mother's Day or whatever. But shift your focus. Don't spend quality, quiet time with the insanity of the committee in your head. Start thinking about movement. What can I do? Be active, be of service. What do I need to do? Shift your focus from yourself to your external for that time. And finally, number 5, celebrate your small wins and be kind to yourself. Just showing up to something is huge. I celebrated myself every day, especially my first week of going to AA. It was a total celebration every day that I got out of my car and walked in that place. It doesn't matter if I cried before or cried after. I celebrated the fact that I did it. And that was huge for me. Celebrate every small win. If you show up and you only stay for 10 minutes at that work thing, you showed the F up. Celebrate that. Text your person that you have as your support and go, oh my gosh, I did it. I made it 30 minutes. Celebrate every single thing and give yourself some positive reinforcement of the change, right? I tell this story all the time. Like in the first week of my sobriety, this lady approached me at AA and she's like, Angela, a bunch of us women are going out to dinner. Do you want to join us? And of course in my head was like, hell no, I want to go home and isolate and be by myself, right? Because there's too much anxiety in going to a new place with new people. And I'm so insecure. I was brand new sober. I'm like, I don't even know what to say. I don't have anything to say. I can't identify a thought or a feeling to save my life outside of anxiety. I was very familiar with that one, that I would just freak out, right? And that would, again, it makes me want to retreat and not engage in activities. But I knew I had to do everything differently in my recovery than I did it in my drinking life. So when she asked me that, the committee in my head was like, hell no, we're going to go home and isolate and eat food. I said, yes, I will do that because I knew how important it was. And I showed up to the restaurant and I did sit in the car and cry. And I was horribly uncomfortable and I had so much anxiety. I don't think I said 3 words to anybody at the table. I think I stayed 20 minutes and I got the F out of there because I felt like I was going to explode. But I celebrated every piece of that process in my head. I got myself ice cream. I told my best friend about it. I told my mom about it. I was so proud of myself because so many pieces of that process were huge for me. Number one, to even accept the invitation was huge because that's something I would never do. I would have gone home and isolated. To actually show up and be on time was huge. To challenge myself as I'm crying in my car, to push myself to still go in was huge. And staying for 20 freaking minutes was huge. All of that was huge. Celebrate every one of those things. Recognize yourself for how much you're pushing yourself and how uncomfortable it is in that you are conquering it. Okay? Celebrate every small win and be kind to yourself. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about, I told you earlier that I'm going to give you my favorite strategy that I use to really start breaking down my anxiety. And this was primarily for going to meetings because when I got sober, that's all I cared about. I knew AA is where people went to be sober, and I knew I had to be a people that was sober. So that's where I went. It was my number one most important part of my day that I go no matter what. So I had to figure out how to do it comfortably. I was not fucking around. I was not going to let my head talk me out of it. I knew I wanted to be sober. I knew I didn't want to drink, and I was going to do whatever it took. So I had to get okay walking into those meetings every single day. And here's what I did. You've heard me talk about this on other episodes too, but this was huge for me. And again, this is about not letting my fear and anxiety hold me back. I knew I had to fight through this stuff because otherwise it'll continue to get bigger. I don't give a fuck if I'm uncomfortable. I'll get over it. Nobody has ever died from being uncomfortable. Nobody has ever died from uncertainty and discomfort. It doesn't happen. So I can get over that, right? I can get through that. I've been plenty uncomfortable in a million situations and I've survived every single one of them. Sobriety is not going to be any different, right? So this is how I talk to myself. So number one, I made myself just make eye contact with like 3 people a day. Just eye contact. I didn't have to say anything. It didn't have to be long, weird, awkward eye contact. Like don't get somebody to file a restraining order, but just eye contact because my default mode was just to look down. I would just look down, and follow the floor as wherever I was walking. I wouldn't engage with people because I was so uncomfortable and so insecure. So that was step 1. Eye contact, 3 people, and it had to be different people every day. So I did that. I don't know how long it took. It didn't take long at all, right? Once you're doing these little tiny things, you get real comfortable with them really quickly because you get the reinforcement that it's not weird, right? Like it's not, your anxiety starts to come down because you're getting good at it. You're getting comfortable with it. And there's nothing weird about it. It starts to become your new normal. So I contact 3 different people each day, done. Probably, I don't know, maybe a week. The next thing I did was eye contact and hi. That's all. Hi. How are you? Good to see you. Just some little something. And that's all. And from there, when I got comfortable just doing those 2 tiny things that were so simple, not easy, but simple, then a lot of that anxiety just falls away because now you're conquering it. Now you're doing it in these itty bitty tiny steps. Next thing you know, 3 weeks in, I'm having like whole conversations. Now, when I say whole conversations, that's probably like 3 or 4 sentences, but to me, that felt like a lot. So maybe just start there, okay? This is a huge topic, anxiety, social anxiety after quitting alcohol. This is a huge topic. And I want you to have actionable strategies to help you navigate social anxiety without relying on alcohol. So let me recap these 5 strategies really quickly that you can use to face your fears, thrive in those social situations, stay sober, and feel more confident. That's what we're doing here. Okay. Number 1 is acknowledging the root of the anxiety, right? That self-doubt, all those fears, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, all those things. And remember, with number one, acknowledging the root, I told you can journal on this, right? Spend some time journaling. Another science-backed tool, journaling. So you can journal on that and how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way, right? Number two is reframe your self-talk. Get into some positive. Shift your focus from all the people that are drinking in the room to finding all the people that aren't drinking in the room and how many of them are there and how could you maybe start a conversation with one of them or go stand close to one of them so maybe they'll say hi to you, whatever. But reframe your self-talk. And the tip I gave you on this one was to have a mantra or some positive affirmations that you can be saying in your head. As your anxiety is going up, you start saying the positive affirmations or your mantra. Again, mine right now is follow your plan, not your feelings. Number three, build your toolbox and use the tools. Bring your own non-alcoholic drink. Practice some deep breathing or visualization before you go. Have a friend via text or be engaged in one of the sober Facebook groups or something that you're a part of where you can interact with a person, right? Not just interacting in the group, that's fantastic, but I want you to have an actual person that you're talking to, laughing with, and getting comfort. You're also helping that other person, right? It's also shifting some of their focus to maybe some of their own anxiety. Number four, shift your focus from yourself to others. Don't try to spend a bunch of quality time with the chaos and anxiety in your head, right? That committee is crazy and it talks crazy and it will drive you crazy. So don't sit and get obsessive and quiet with all the nonsense in your head. That anxiety comes from focusing on how we're perceived. So don't stop and obsess about that. Don't go sit in a freaking corner and obsess about your anxiety. Get busy, move around, do things, clean things up, go for a walk. My bathroom break trick. Take a trip to the bathroom and sit and do some deep belly breaths and some visualization for 30 seconds, right? Get your nervous system back more balanced. That's what you're focusing on. Do things for others. Become the photographer, okay? 5, celebrate your small wins. Celebrate every tiny thing you do today that is different from how you did it as the less healthy version of yourself. Celebrate every small win. I hope you loved the information in this episode. Like I said, this is a big topic and we're going to keep talking about it, especially going into this holiday season. I want you to have plenty of good strategies. So as you're freaking out and stressing out about going to things and how it's going to feel and how are you going to do it and how are you going to get through it and how are you going to not drink, these are your strategies to use to get through those situations. Do not be lazy, my friend. Do not say, I'll take care of this later. Oh, I'm going to put this together later. Oh, I need to sit down later and do this. I need to do this weekend. Do it. Don't blow it off. If you're serious about staying sober, you'll be serious about using the tools that you are so freely given by so many of us who are walking this walk and giving you all this free information. Use it. That's how you create change, not thinking about it, talking about it, reading about it, listening to it, but doing it. Use it, okay? I love you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you next week.
You've reached the end of another great episode of the Addiction Unlimited podcast. Candid and honest conversation about addiction and recovery. Be sure to visit us at addictionunlimited.com to join the conversation and access show notes and links to everything we talked about. Love this episode? Please take 30 seconds to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes to help us improve and give you the information you want. Thanks for listening. See you next week.